you think I'm spooky?
Be afraid. Be very afraid. What have you done to his eyes?
Good evening, and welcome to Soft and Spooky. For today's video, I'm going to be going over the movie Blacula in honor of Black History Month. The movie Blacula is a 1972 blaxploitation horror film that was directed by William Crane. On a $500,000 budget, this film actually made over $1 million at the box office. It also was the first film to ever receive a Saturn Award for Best Horror Film. Despite the fact that this film, as well as other blaxploitation films, receive criticism for their exploitative nature as well as heavy use of stereotypes, you really can't discredit Blacula for having a significant impact in Black history and film. This film actually inspired a wave of Black-themed horror films, and you can still see its influence up to current day. So if you haven't seen Blacula, I highly recommend that you do. It's currently available on Amazon Prime, as well as free with ads on YouTube. So definitely check it out if you were interested in seeing this film. That being said, for this video, I'm actually going to be kind of doing a watch reaction and giving my personal thoughts on the film as well as stylistic choices. So this is going to be heavy spoilers throughout the entire video. So if you were interested in seeing this, without anything being spoiled, I definitely recommend clicking out of this video. But yeah, that is your spoiler warning, and let's go ahead and sink our teeth in. The film opens up in 1780 in Transylvania with our lead character Mama Walde as well as his wife Luva are going to meet Count Dracula. The reason that they travel from Africa to Transylvania is in an effort to garner the support of Count Dracula in helping them suppress the slave trade. Unfortunately, Dracula is kind of a gross scumbag.
Slavery has merit, I believe.
Merit? You find merit in barbarity?
Barbarous from the standpoint of the slave, perhaps. Intriguing and delightful from mine. I would willingly pay for so beautiful an addition to my household as your delicious wife.
Dude, read the room. But I have to say, Mama Walde nails this delivery so perfectly with his reply.
Sir, are you ill?
So this is actually where I have to jump in and talk about Mama Walde's actor, William Marshall. He just has this perfect baritone voice and use of theatrical language that really nails that horror flick vibe. He could honestly read the ingredients off of a shampoo bottle and I would hang on his every word. Rest in peace to a theatrical great, because he just added so much richness to this role, and I don't think the movie would have been the same without him. So the situation escalates when Dracula will not allow them to leave, and we get a great fight scene. My personal favorite part is the magical candles. Here they are. Oh, there a few go. Oh good, they're back. Oh, now they're all gone. I also appreciate this vase going nowhere near Mama Walde's head, yet somehow it gives him a head wound. While Mama Walde is incapacitated, Count Dracula turns him into a vampire and renames him.
I curse you with my name. You shall be Blacula.
Something that I noticed in this particular scene is the lighting on Count Dracula's face. It really reminds me a lot of what they did for Angelica Houston's Morticia in The Addams Family. And it does make me wonder if The Addams Family drew upon just in general old school horror films, or if it specifically was kind of drawing inspiration from this movie. I do feel like something symbolic is actually taking place in this scene. Count Dracula is taking away Mama Walde's name and renaming him, and ultimately taking away his identity and designing his fate for him. Mama Walde would have never chosen this life for himself, but it has been chosen for him, and I feel like that mirrors a lot of what he was fighting against in suppressing the slave trade system. In both instances, people are ripped from their loved ones and their very livelihood is drained from them. So I know that this film is campy and low budget and kind of funny at times, but you really can't overlook the symbolism and the significance that it had in releasing at the time that it did. So following Mama Walde's entombment in the Dracula castle, we get the most badass opening credits. I just can't say enough how refreshing and fun this animation and music was. We get a very heavy funk soundtrack, and I feel like it gets you excited to watch this movie. The music as a whole in this film is super fun, and it never feels out of place, despite it kind of not going with the genre. Classic horror movies had this haunting cinematic feel to them, but this had very funky and upbeat kind of music, and it still worked perfectly. Traveling forward, we are taken into the 1970s, where a couple, Bobby and Billy, are purchasing Dracula's castle. And I have to say, their representation in this film kind of feels like a double-edged sword to me. I do feel like it was incredibly progressive to include an interracial gay couple into a film in the 1970s, but sometimes it does feel like they are kind of reduced to this effeminate gay male stereotype that I do think doesn't quite hold up quite as well. It does go without saying that stereotypes in blaxploitation films were pretty rampant. That's kind of where they get the exploitation from. Yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit. There are several uses of the F-slur by the cops, as well as their relationship being reduced to associates. But I do have to say, I feel like the two actors that played Bobby and Billy had really good chemistry together. So as they're unboxing their items that were shipped from Transylvania, Billy gets a boo-boo, and Bobby helps him out by wrapping it up. And as he's being wrapped, you see that Mama Walde is rising from his coffin. So Mama Walde's first kill is Billy as he's chomping into his arm, and I have to commend Ted Harris's acting as Bobby because he ripped my heart out. His acting just really sold it for me, and I felt like he was super upset at his partner dying, and I don't know, this kill actually upset me, and I was bummed to see them die. So after feasting on the couple, Mama Walde hops back into his coffin, and it kind of made me wonder, do you think vampires get indigestion? Or like acid reflux and little bubble guts? Just something to think about. In the next scene, we already see Bobby is in a coffin, and this has to be like the fastest funeral prepped I've ever seen. But Mama Walde is creeping on this corpse behind the curtain as 3 of Bobby's friends arrive. One thing to note, all 3 of these outfits are straight fire. They are such cute outfits that I would love to wear now. First of the 3 friends is Dr. Gordon Thomas, who is played by Thalmus Rasulullah. He is actually a part of the police force in their scientific division. Is that what it's actually called? I feel like it would be called something else. Throughout the film, the entire lab that he works at is completely empty except for Michelle, and I think that's his co-worker as well as his partner. Michelle is played by the gorgeous Denise Nicholas. Every time she was on screen, I could not stop staring at her. She is so beautiful. Now, this is kind of revealing a little bit of future plot, but I feel like Michelle and Gordon's relationship really steals the show from Mama Walde's love storyline later, because I love like their interactions, the little knowing looks that they give each other. Like, they're so cute. The third friend that has come to view Bobby is named Tina, and she is shrouded in this purple hood initially, but we get the big reveal that she is played by Vonetta McGee, who is the same actress that played Luva in the first scene. Fun little fact, because I like to look way too deeply into things, I did look up the meaning behind the name Luva, and in Tongan, it means heavy rain, she is loved. Hey, buddy. So I do feel like their first interaction could have gone better. He runs into her and calls her Luva, to which she's like, what? No. And then he chases her. For this chase scene, I love the shot close up on her heels as she's sort of like click-clocking on the pavement. And I feel like the movie Bowfinger actually drew inspiration from this. But yeah, not to worry. Tina gets away from him because Mama Walde is hit by a car. And I really think she's trying to avoid her insurance rates going up because she immediately starts blaming him.
What the hell you run in front of my cab for? Can't you see, man?
This makes Mama Walde consider doing the classic fake neck injury, but instead he decides to give her one. See what I did there? He bit her. So after the cab driver, Juanita Jones, is taken to the morgue, Dr. Gordon Thomas goes over there to inspect her neck for any fang marks that were also present on Bobby. Little by little, he's just gathering up details and sort of serving as the surrogate Van Helsing in this movie. I have to say, Rasulullah's portrayal of this character really hits it perfectly for me because he serves as this voice of reason, and he's also serious but has this kind of dry wit that comes out.
That is one strange dude. Who is it? One strange dude.
I think he did a great job portraying this character. So that day, it is Michelle's birthday, so Tina, Gordon, and Michelle all meet up at the club to celebrate her birthday, and we are treated to just even more wonderful music. This time it's actually a live performance done by the Hughes Corporation, which most notably they're known for the song Rock the Boat. So while the gang is all there, Mama Walde somehow knew that they were going to be at the club and finds Tina. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear any of the dialogue in this part where he's explaining the things to her, and we immediately just cut to her asking him to join her and everyone else for Michelle's birthday. What could he have said that made you feel more comfortable with him? Because if somebody chases me, I'm not really apt to invite them to a birthday dinner. It does make me wonder if maybe this is a reference to the original text where Dracula was able to hypnotize people, and maybe that's what Mama Walde was doing here, but we don't really get much indication either way. This scene also introduces my favorite character of the movie, Skillet. Skillet is played by Jitu Kambuka, and he has some of the funniest lines in here.
Did you see the rags he had on? Bad cape. It's like to beat him out of that cape.
I actually had to rewind that scene because him saying that he's gonna beat him out of the cape, like, oh my god, that's so aggressive for no reason, and I just thought that was so funny. So while they're sitting there, Mama Walde abruptly decides to leave at a picture being taken, and this part kind of confused me. So he's been in a coffin since 1780, and he's never seen a car, like a taxi cab. He's never seen a camera like that, and so I'm surprised that he's not more like frightened by everything, but also, did he just like instinctively know that he's not going to show up on camera? Because he seemed surprised when he found out that Count Dracula was a vampire. So it's not like there's common knowledge of vampire lore that was accessible to him. Also, the driving conflict of this whole camera incident is the idea that maybe Nancy would discover that he doesn't show up in film. But if I were a photographer, I wouldn't instantly be like, oh, it's a vampire. I'd just be like, oh, my camera's acting goofy. So Nancy snaps this candid photo of Tina and Mama Walde, and he runs off. Nancy tells the table that she's going to stop at home and develop the photos and then bring them right back. But before she goes, she has a really great interaction with Skillet.
Say, Mama, how come you never look at me that way?
There's a reason, Skillet. Well, I guess we're all through here, so I'll just take these little prints. I'll run over to my studio. I shall develop these, and I'll be right back.
For some reason, her delivery here reminds me a lot of Madeline Kahn.
I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face.
Unfortunately, with Nancy developing this photo, Mama Walde sees this as a loose end and he turns her. I still feel like it's not very believable that vampire would be your first conclusion to hop to. And I was bummed because I kind of wanted to see more interactions between her and Skillet because they were kind of funny. Meanwhile, we have this love story between Tina and Mama Walde, and I have to say this is kind of where the movie loses me just a little bit. I felt like there wasn't a strong chemistry that was built between the actors, and their dialogue just, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of a controlling relationship, and I didn't like it. This man's just screaming red flags. First red flag, he chases you down a street. Number 2, he wants you to be his wife after a day. 3, he doesn't want pictures with you. He could be hiding something. 4, he wears a cape all the time. There's also the scene where he comes to her apartment and she says, "Oh, I thought we were meeting at the club." So he tracked her down and just comes into her apartment? That's weird. Yeah, you're scaring me, dude. That being said, there is one part of their storyline that I do kind of like. So he's asking Tina to run away with him and be his wife, and she obviously hesitates. But there is this kind of heartbreaking line that he says that I thought was really effective.
I've lived again to lose you twice.
But not to worry, Tina immediately changes her mind and they start making out.
Stay with me.
And coming from a makeup standpoint, I really wish that in between shots they would have just dabbed his forehead just a little bit. Poor William Marshall must have been sweating constantly. Do you think it's the cape? I think it's the cape. Throughout the film, Gordon's suspicions are growing at a pretty fast rate, especially after reading this book called The Dead Ones. He decides to exhume Billy's body, which is Bobby's partner, and see if he's still kicking. Billy is, in fact, undead, and Gordon stakes him through the heart while Michelle just screams in horror. Date night! Back at the morgue, we have the attendant Sam that Gordon was talking to earlier, and how did I not notice until this scene that he has a hook hand? And it's never addressed or even used in the plot in any way. He just has a hook hand.
She gets out to check in man door, hand hook, car door.
So, since Gordon knows that these bodies are reanimating, he warns Sam to close and lock the door where Juanita Jones's body is. And this little silly goose doesn't do that. So while Sam takes another call, you can see that the door to the morgue is slightly ajar, and then we actually get what I think is the creepiest scene of the film. I thought Ketty Lester's acting here was pretty good and creepy. I think the reason that this scene is so effective is largely in part to the sound design that they use and the use of the first-person angle as she is running towards the camera in slow motion. Fun fact, I knew I recognized Sam from somewhere, but I couldn't quite place it, and I realized that he was in the 1970s adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. He played Weasel Craig in that. He also was Mr. Nicholas in Rosemary's Baby, and he was Watson Pritchard in House on Haunted Hill. I just love finding connections in horror films. I think it's so fun. So since Gordon and Michelle know that there are vamps out there, they're kind of looking for some leads. Gordon also gets the police force on board when one of them witnesses Juanita Jones at the morgue and she is killed by sunlight. While at the club, Gordon and Michelle have a conversation with Mama Walde, and they totally tip him off that they are onto the vampires and they are looking for a coffin. So Mama Walde suddenly has to leave. I wonder if it's to move his coffin, but not before we get another hilarious line from Skillet.
Say, Mama Walter, let me buy that old cake from you, brother.
I just love how annoyed Mama Walde looks in this. It's so funny.
Let me buy that old cake from you, brother.
It's not until Gordon finds the photograph that Nancy had with Mama Walde missing in that picture with him and Tina that he finally puts it together that he's the vampire. And he also realizes that Tina is now in trouble. The cops have an APB put out on Bobby and Billy despite them being dead, and they actually find Bobby picking up another person and start to follow him. This leads the police to the warehouse where Bobby and Billy were killed, and this is Vamp Central. We do get a couple cop kills, and there's a nice tie-in from earlier when Bobby and Billy were unpacking the shipment. They needed some light in there, so they used these oil lamps, and those are actually reincorporated as a makeshift Molotov cocktail to throw at the vampires. I also have to commend the fire stunts that were done for this because it looks like they were in flames for kind of an extended time. So ultimately, they are looking for Mama Walde's coffin, and he gets the jump on him.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, that's what I say. Good evening.
I guess I should have told you this evening that I decided to move my coffin, but then it was you who gave me the idea.
Mama Walde evades them by turning into a bat, and then he also telepathically talks to Tina, hypnotizing her to come to this chemical processing plant where he's moved his coffin. I kind of thought we would get more of a theatrical looking set, but it's just very industrial. As Mama Walde and Tina are walking away together, one of the cops has the worst aim in the world and ends up shooting Tina. It kind of reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons where Bart accidentally shoots that bird.
Oh my god.
Mama Walde decides to save her by turning her into a vampire, but she eventually gets accidentally staked anyway. This sends Mama Walde into a rage, and he has this really awesome echoey line.
This will be your employer's tomb! Your tomb! Your tomb! Your tomb!
I don't know why, but the repetition just cracks me up.
We're doomed!
Doomed! Doomed!
So Mama Walde is pissed now, and he just starts messing these cops up. There's a stunt where a bunch of the cops are falling down these steps, and ow. It looks, I'm pretty sure one of the guys got his head and neck rolled over by somebody else, so I hope they're okay. With Tina's death and his true love being gone, Mama Walde feels like there's no use in going on. I have to say, this ending scene I thought was incredibly well done. He kisses her hand and says the Swahili term for goodbye, which is wakiri, and then he walks up the steps towards the roof. The music, the cinematography from below, and his figure being outlined with the light, I thought this looked really artistically done. I also have to say, since I just love practical effects in movies, his face being instantly decaying and manifesting maggots and then transitioning into a skull, I thought it looked pretty good. That was pretty great. And that is how Blacula ends. I really hope if you haven't seen this but decided to be a little stinker and watch this video anyway, that you do end up watching this movie. There are so many little details that I can't go into in a video like this, and I feel like it's definitely worth the time. I think it's a really fun movie, and I think that despite it being campy and low budget, I think that it does have a very significant place in Black history and Black history in film. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely leave it a thumbs up so I know, and leave a comment down below if you'd like me to watch Scream Blacula Scream, which is the sequel to this. Feel free to subscribe because I am a brand new horror channel, and I'd love to see you guys stick around. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to stay soft and spooky.